Okay. Right. Okay, I'm going to start now. Hi guys, welcome to Let's Talk on Television Media. I'd like to welcome you to our show today. We've just decided to do an impromptu show on why is it important to have multicultural representation in the community. And the reason why we decided to talk about this today is we noticed an article that came out in some of the papers yesterday regarding a DJ. He's a DJ. He's a black DJ who works in central London, quite a well-known DJ. He works in one of those.
He works in nightclub in Piccadilly.
Yeah, I don't really know much about these kind of things, but it's supposed to be a very popular nightclub with, especially with celebrities. So, you know, he's quite a big deal. And basically, he was doing like a promotional video, driving around London in a Bentley, and he was stopped by the police. Now, it's not the first time that he's been stopped by the police. He's been stopped by the police a number of times. I'm not going to show the video due to copyright infringement, but you can find it anywhere online. I found it on the Standard, Evening Standard website. And you will see the police officer basically explaining to him that the reason why he's stopping him is because he kind of fits the description of somebody that would be most likely to commit crime. And the reason why it says that is that he was dressed in quote unquote gangster style clothing, and he was driving a Bentley, like quite an expensive car. So it seems like he's got a lot of money, or he's got money from somewhere. And he's driving around with a group of black guys. And, you know, according to the police officer, that's the kind of person that they would need to stop to check that they weren't doing anything untoward. So we had a bit of a discussion about this in my group, in the group Let's Talk Online Interviews, Discussions and Debates. You can find us on Facebook. And basically what I was saying is, well, the reason why I feel that a police officer would say something like that is not even that it may necessarily be true, or it might be true, something that we can discuss. But I believe that it's because there is like a miscommunication in the community. There's like a lack of understanding of how a certain other demographic may behave. So, you know, there may be things in another person's culture that another person won't understand, and they won't understand because they wouldn't have come from that background or lived that lifestyle. It's not to say that, all right, statistically speaking, there may be, you know, a high level of a certain kind of like a black male dressed in a certain way committing crimes in that particular part of an area, but that's not true for everywhere. So, you know, I really think it's more about having a representation of, you know, those type of people. So if there was more black police officers, there was more Asian police officers, there was more, you know, Eastern European police officers and whatever, then they would be able to kind of deal with things better in the community, because they understand, you know, the demographics that they're dealing with. And you have to remember, London is one of the most multicultural places on planet Earth. So, you know, I don't think it's right that there should be a high representation of one type of person. So what do you have to say about that, Gail?
I don't disagree that there should be a greater representation of ethnic minorities. However, I think that the opinion of the white police officer might be an opinion that is shared widely. As you say, in the area, coming from a specific area where there is a higher percentage of black men, then you may see more black crime. And I don't think that the cultural difference of a police officer would necessarily make him think differently, because I myself sometimes stereotype. If I see a young, for example, a young black man in a flash car, I might think, oh, what's he selling? So I think one of the points you made when we were speaking about it earlier, about there not being a high enough representation of black success, or people showing their success, black people showing their success, and that is more of an issue, I think.
What's happening? Did you lose sound or something?
Yeah, it just moved out for a second. But yeah, I think that might be more of an issue where there's not a large representation of us seeing that black success within our communities, and because we don't see that so much, we don't relate that to being something that we notice. When we notice a young black man, we don't think, oh, young black man, he must be doing well in life. What we normally see, and what is normally portrayed in media, is young black males who are fighting each other, are in gangster lifestyles, or even what we see on the streets. When I walk through Croydon, there's usually a big group of young black males just hanging around, and obviously that creates a certain impression, because why are they hanging around? Why aren't they in their homes? Why aren't they doing something productive? Why are they just hanging around on the street, riding their bicycles around in Croydon and chatting up girls and whatever else they're doing? I think there needs to be a better representation of success within the black community.
Okay, so would you say that these people that you're seeing, are they of like a younger generation, or would it be like older people, kind of our age or older, or what kind of?
Well, I think it varies, but it is the majority of the younger generation. So in regards to the DJ, I think it's DJ MO, or DMO, something like that, DMO. He seems to be in our age group. So seeing him driving Bentley, he was driving a Bentley at the time, but when I listened to LBC earlier, it said that he was on air and he said that he normally drives a Mercedes. So seeing him drive that at his age, I wouldn't necessarily think, oh, drug dealer. It's when it's the younger generation.
Okay, so why do you think that there is a lack of representation? Because I mean, if we was gonna really pull out the statistics, I haven't done, but I'm sure if I was to pull out all the statistics, we would probably see that there is many more black males that are, you know, working or have their own type of business, or, you know, making a, you know, some form of money, compared to the ones that are on the street, but it's just that the ones on the street are the ones that are being seen. So, you know, why do you think, because I know a lot of successful people who don't actually promote their success at all.
But that's the whole the fact of them not being represented or not being visible, that's the whole problem, because what we are seeing and what a lot of other people see is those that are doing the wrong thing, so to speak, or just trying to get by, rather than seeing those success stories and seeing those successful black men that are in business, those successful black men that do have successful careers and good families, etc. I don't think that that's portrayed enough. I don't think that general sing about their successes enough. Unless you go to fields such as acting or music, football. Like, it's, you know, the standard things. Okay, this is what black people are good at. They're good at athletics, music, and that's basically what we're shown to be good at. I think that those who are in business, those who are doing something different, something productive. I mean, we both have a mutual friend that is doing some scientific research thing, but we don't hear about them things enough.
I hear that, and earning a bag of money with it as well.
Exactly. But how many people know that? And I think that maybe it's a protection thing, where when you get that level of success, you don't necessarily want to share that with other people, because you feel that Jane, Sarah, Robert are going to be knocking at your door. And it's like that.
Actually, the key point that you've raised is that successful people, especially in the black community, and it may be in other communities as well, they don't want to actually promote their success. Maybe somebody that has a business that has to promote that business, you will know, well, they're doing their business is making so much in money or whatever. So you know that if you write down the figures, they must be quite successful. I mean, what do you think about showing success in terms of having, you know, big flashy cars, you know, wearing name brand clothes? Do you think that's important? Because I
think that's peacocking, really. I don't think it's a necessary thing. I think a lot of people do it to show their status, but it's not necessary. You don't have to have a big flashy car. You can have a good car that takes you from A to B and is economic but decent. But I just don't think. I think there's a different way in which you can put yourself in the forefront. It doesn't have to be by having expensive things and showing off in that sense. Put yourself in the forefront by being seen publicly, because there may be people in business, but they hide behind a logo, or I think it's changing, don't get me wrong, because there are some people in business I know, but they're startup businesses, but they're putting themselves at the forefront of their business, whereas other people previously, black people have hidden behind a logo or behind a slogan or behind a brand, and haven't put themselves forward as the owner of that business. And an old school thing of where, you know, I pack my suitcase and I'm careful what I put in my suitcase, because when I go home, I might not come back with the same things I had because everybody wants something.
You're gonna have to explain that to people who don't understand that concept.
Okay, so Somebody always wants you to send them a barrel, pack it full of something.
In the Caribbean.
Yeah, and send it back to the Caribbean. Or if you go into the Caribbean, you know, certain clothes that you're going with,
All your clothes.
one auntie might want it, one cousin might want the next thing, and you're
you don't
prepared
buy
for that. I buy clothes specifically to give away, because half the time I know, okay, once I've worn it once, twice, like, let me just give that to my cousin. Or I pack things for them. I'll go and buy certain things I'll put in my case, and I know that I'm giving that to that person and that to that person. Or my mum. My mum's generally more like that than I am. And it might be an old school thing, an old school way of doing things is, you know, that you come to the UK to make something of yourself and to make a success of yourself. So when you go home, you go and take things back and people are expecting something of you. So putting yourself in the forefront and showing I'm successful, I've made this in my life, I've done this in business, I've done this in other areas, you're somewhat vulnerable to that.
So are you saying that people hide their success and their money so that other people won't know that they have it?
I think sometimes that can be the case, because not everyone, don't get me wrong, but in the Black community, I don't think there's as much sharing of ideas even.
Or support.
Sharing of ideas, sharing of support. I mean, if you go to someone and you want advice on how to get into business, you get very short, sharp answers. You don't get the in-depth, this is how I've done it, let me mentor you, let me share with you, let me give you some of what I've got to help you get started and on your way. Like, it's not like other cultures where I've seen them, you know, nurture people who come to them, or nurture the people within their community and help them to grow.
Mm.
So I don't think there's as much sharing within the Black community that needs to change. It's beginning to, but it needs to change even more so.
Right. So what can we do as to set the example?
Well, I think what we can do to set the example is that whoever comes to yourself or myself and they're looking for advice on particular things that we're experienced with, we share that information, even by having this talk show where people can come and they can answer questions and grasp information from us in that respect. We're sharing a part of what we know and a part of who we are with them. And I'm not afraid of the deeper questions. There are some obviously that you can't answer, but the majority of the time you find a way to help people if you can.
Mm. So it's almost like the experiences that we've had. So do you think that because maybe our previous generations wasn't necessarily entrepreneurial, we've had, you know, many of our parents or grandparents were maybe the first people first people to come into somewhere like England, America, wherever, from the Caribbean or wherever they're from. So because it's like they're kind of starting on a blank sheet, they haven't got like a step up to give us. So now we have to be the first kind of generation to say, okay, we've put our stand in here. So now we have to establish things to kind of help people that are maybe not as quick to grasp as us, or the younger generation.
Yeah, I think that is the case. However, I wouldn't say that our grandparents or parents weren't entrepreneurial. My granddad had his own shop for however many years, I don't even know, for as long as I can remember. And my dad, after he came out of the army, he's had a number of different businesses and worked for himself. So I don't necessarily believe that they weren't entrepreneurial, because a lot of people that come to this country, they might start off in a job and then end up having to do their own business because of lack of opportunity. But I do believe that it needs to be more deep rooted. The businesses need to be able to establish themselves to a level where they're able to offer support and advice to other startups and people within the community. And it's nice to see a lot of the community-based businesses that are starting to do that, starting to impart into the younger generation and having specifically set up their business so that they can give a proportion of what they're doing into community projects.
Cool. So it's kind of like the social enterprise era that is actually seeking to help the next generation, or new businesses and stuff like that. That you think is very important. Okay. So going back to like, because the one thing that I was going to say before that is, do you think that people that are just coming into the country now, so like we've had in the last 10 years a lot of other European countries come over to England and trying to start a life here. So do you think that they kind of are now in a similar position that we are in terms of maybe law enforcement and other organisations not necessarily understanding their culture, so they may be stigmatised in a certain way? Or do you still think that it's definitely to do more with the colour of your skin?
I think they probably will be stigmatised in a similar way, but not necessarily by law enforcement. I think it's more of the people thing, and I think that's a lot to do with the scaremongering and all of the media that's based around we've got too many people coming into our country, immigration is too high, we need to put a cap on the amount of people coming in. And I think that's created a culture of fear within Britain, and there are a lot of people that are fearful of new people coming in because they're thinking, oh, they're taking this from us, they're taking that from us, when that's not necessarily the case. In fact, it's not the case. It's statistically not the case.
I feel that there's a lot, the technology has a lot to do with that, because we're thinking about, okay, we're saying there are not enough jobs out there for everybody, but if you look at it, you walk into a supermarket and there's all these self-service checkouts, and there's so many things that have been taken over, or 3 jobs can be rolled into one. Like, you can do like your own accountancy online, so you don't need to pay like a proper accountant to do certain work for you. There's so much information. I mean, even like using YouTube, I use YouTube to literally do everything. How to fix my boiler because I don't want to call a plumber. How to fix, you know what I mean? I'm looking at any way to kind of cut corners, and it's all using technology.
Yeah, and I think this is one of the issues as well. Not just technology, but the fact that our younger generation is a de-skilled generation, in terms of we're not necessarily taught trades and the things that you have to call someone for. I can't build a house, and as many videos as I watch, I'll never try to build a house myself. Like, because that's just number one, a job that I wouldn't want to put into my own hands, because I'd want somebody who was skilled at doing that. It would take me a heck of a long time to learn that skill in order to build myself a house. So I think that looking at training our young people in a different way, it doesn't always have to be academics. It doesn't always have to be, like they say, you don't always have to be book smart in order to get by in life. And sometimes we're failing some of our young people who aren't necessarily book smart. What opportunities are we giving them? What are we creating for them in terms of their future? And it's not everyone that is able to write a dissertation and get through university. And even those that do write their dissertations get through university, there isn't the jobs out there for them.
So going back to that, seeing as you are a teacher and you can see what is happening with the young people, how important is it, considering that we are everyone is given like the same level of education, and from what I understand now, all the kind of exam systems are now going to be 100% exam based. I don't know if it's from now on or if they're trying to phase it to that point. So it's clearly obvious that not everybody. I'm not very good in an exam situation, and I'm sure that there's loads of children out there that are not, and they can't necessarily be trained to be that way. And they always say that children that maybe people learn in different ways. Some are visual, some they're kinetic, they want to be moving about, and not everybody is necessarily going to be the same thing. So is it, what can we do for those children that are not necessarily academic, but that they have a brilliant mind, to maybe, they may be the builders of tomorrow. They may be, the people that are going to, fly planes or go into space or, do something absolutely fantastic. But because they don't want to sit down and write, what can we do to help, especially as not even being a teacher, but being a parent? Because I also think that we put the responsibility on the education system far too much, and then we blame them when things go wrong, when we also have our children at home and we can teach them as well.
I think there needs to be a bit of more of a focus on skills-based education. We still do need the academic things. We need to be literate, but there's a lot in the education system that can be seen as unnecessary learning. For example, if I asked you now, can you name me all of Henry's wives? Can you name them for me?
No, but I know what happened to them.
Right, because that rhyme was easy to remember, but naming all of his wives, what have you ever used that in your life for anything? Has it ever been beneficial to your, apart from to help your children with their homework? There are some things within the curriculum that I don't know, but I feel that they're unnecessary to learn. I mean, we do have to learn about where we come from, but that's not where everyone comes from. So it's not even an inclusive curriculum. So
beginning of whence they came anyway.
Yeah, this is the thing. I think that a lot of people in education sing about how it needs to be inclusive, but we're following an old education system that isn't inclusive, that doesn't think about the society, the changing society that we have now, and the different cultures that we have now. And I think that, skills-based learning is a necessary thing to impart. A lot of music has been taken out of education. I don't see it as much happening. Yeah, I know you'd be offended by that. And you don't see as much art being done. You don't see as much DT being done. And it's because there is so much pressure to meet the government standards, to meet these levels of these exams that you have to take at the end of your school career, that everything else is kind of pushed aside or filtered into the background to make way for, okay, you need to learn how.
Who's the Minister of Education at the moment in Parliament?
I've forgotten her name now.
It's a woman. Well, whoever she is, if she hears this stream, you need to bring back music, because music gets you through life. And it's said that a child that learns music is going to be better at English, maths, science. It's been scientifically proven. So, and it's an enjoyment, and everyone listens to music, man. That's why we got so much of these stupidness that the kids are listening to now, because they don't know what they're supposed to be expected to listen to. So you got flipping pineapple, apple tree foolishness that they're listening to. Do you know what I mean?
It's true. Sorry, the current role holder, as it says, is Justine Greening, who's currently. But yeah, as you were saying, I just think a lot needs to be changed, and it's not necessarily that we're told don't teach music, don't teach art, don't teach DT, don't teach. It's just you haven't got time. There is so much to pack in that these things sometimes get left out. They sometimes get missed out. And you try your best to fit them in as many times a week as you can, but there's only so much that you can do, especially when the levels expected are so high as well.
Yeah, I think the levels have definitely got a lot higher. It's really...
Somebody was telling me about a mock test paper for year 2, sat speaking about tsunamis, and I'm like, what?
That's ridiculous.
How old are those children? Why is they're 7-year-olds? I just don't get it.
About tsunamis. Well, I suppose it might be necessary.
At that age? No.
Oh dear. Okay, so going back to kind of like racially profiling, do you see it as a person that hangs around with a lot of young children and, you know, seeing a lot of young people? Do you see kind of like a trend, or do you notice that maybe at a young age, children may that, you know, there's little signs to say that this child is going to be a certain way, or, you know, what is your thoughts on those kinds of things?
Right, could you repeat that again?
So basically what I'm saying is, as a person that's around young children and you see young people all the time, do you think that in regards to racially profiling, because, you know, you said you know, a black male that looks a certain way, dressed a certain way, is going to stand out to the police, and the police are going to feel that that person maybe did something wrong. Now, I'll just to give you a little bit of background information. When I had this conversation with somebody yesterday, they said, well, what is gangster style clothing? Because I've been stopped by the police in my school uniform. So, you know, what do you have to do? What do you have to look like to not look like you're causing trouble? So do you see, would you, basically what I'm saying is can you see a rationale then of a person saying, well, you look, I suppose it's the same thing for us to understand. We could say the same thing as because of Muslims are looked at as, you know, everyone's put into a box because of all this terrorism that's going around. If you see somebody wearing a hijab, or, you know, looking like a Muslim, or looking like someone, oh, they must be a terrorist. So, you know, can you say that there's anything that you could actually physically say? Because I know a lot of Muslims, and I've never met, not one of them has ever given me any incentive to say that they're going to go and blow up something. So, you know, what is there any rationale to say, well, because you dress that way, because you wear a hoodie or a hat, or you've got like an Adidas tracksuit on, you are definitely going to look like a criminal?
No, because if we look at the profile of some criminals, there are criminals that come from households with 2 parents who are middle earners, and their child then goes out and kills, firstly, a cat. That's the first thing they attempt to kill in their process with their thinking, and then the next step is for them to think, okay, let me go and kill some people or a person. And the serious criminals usually come from that kind of home. Being a teacher, I've trained myself not to look at children and think, you're going to grow up to be a serial killer, you're going to grow up to be a thief, you're going to grow up to be a lawyer, you're going to grow up to be a banker, because I've got to have an open mind in terms of when I'm teaching them. I've got to think this child can achieve the best no matter what. So I've trained myself not to look at a child and make assumptions, and trained myself to give them the best opportunity to be the best that they can be.
I can agree with you there, because I would say in my line of work and meeting people, different people every day, it's not even that I've trained myself. I've proved myself wrong so many times on how I think a person is going to be when I meet them. Like, the person that looks like the most, rough around the edges person is actually like the most, the nicest person you would ever meet. And the one that is prim and proper and talks proper Queen's English is dodgy as hell. Do you know what I mean? So, I've been proved wrong so many times that I'm like a blank canvas when I meet somebody. And like I said to somebody again yesterday, even with myself, I would hope that when people meet me, I know the first impression is commoner, South London accent, a bit ghetto, maybe even a little bit loud, whatever the case may be. But when they actually get to know me and talk to me, they know that I'm actually I'm a pussycat. Do you know what I mean? I'm just like, I'm as sweet as I am.
I've known you a long time, and I wouldn't describe you as that.
Well, I have my dilemma days. All of us, we have that cycle and all that. So, there's going to be days when I go a bit, AWOL, but I do speak my mind a lot of the time, and a lot of the time I don't actually think about the person I'm speaking to when I'm speaking.
I'd rather you describe yourself as a lioness than a pussycat, because yes, you have those moments where you have to go on the attack, go on the prowl, go kill your animals and whatever, but you have your chill days. Like, describe you as a pussycat.
Okay, I'm a lioness, people.
That's fair.
I'm a lioness, but at the end of the day, there's a reason. There's a reason why I do what I do, and I'm passionate. I'm passionate about life. I'm passionate about things. I love to get my point across. I love to be heard. So, but like I said, on the other hand, I can listen to people, and I've learned to take direction when I'm wrong. It might take a little while, but I've learned to take direction and say, okay, maybe my views can be changed, and I can learn. And I just think that that's the wonderful thing about life, because I've seen so much, especially in the last couple of years. There's been so much hate. This, I just see it as divide and conquer, really, because there's hate against, because you might be a little bit lighter than me, or you're slimmer than me, or you've got what's it, that the 2C, 3C, 4C hair texture, or this person's white, this person's black, this person's Asian, this person, whatever the case may be. It's always like there is always like a separation. Like, we're always trying to separate each other and profile and say, well, I come from London, and I actually make a joke out of it, because I no longer live in London. I live in a totally different area. A lot of people, they don't really understand some of the things that I come out with, or you know, the way that I behave. So I just brush it off and say, I'm from South London, and it, don't worry about it. It's like, you know, you're not gonna understand unless you're from there. So you know, I just think it's all, you know, all this people pitting against each other. Like, at the end of the day, we're actually all quite similar because we're all vulnerable. Do you know what I mean? We all have our vulnerabilities. We all have, you know, the things that we go through. As they say, we all, if you cut us, we'll all bleed. Do you know what I mean? So why do we have to now? Yeah, there has been, there's history of, you know, of things that are going on, and even now there is so much war and confusion in this world. Like, why do we have to now be pitting against each other, and we're all striving for the same thing? Do you understand what I'm saying? So yeah, I don't know if you want to say anything in regards to that.
No, not really. You covered it perfectly.
Cool. Yeah, so I just also wanted to ask you, I know this is completely going off topic, but there was another thing that really interested me, and me being, I call myself like a bleeding heart liberal when it comes to things like this. What do you think about Jeremy Corbyn? Be aware that I do quite like him, saying that there should be a maximum wage
salary. I haven't heard all the details on his maximum wage, so I can't specifically comment on the proper details. But in terms of imposing a maximum wage, as long as that doesn't affect businesses in the larger term, because I don't think there should be a cap set on how much someone in business should be able to make. If they've created something that is amazing, then why shouldn't they be able to reap the profits from that? If 100 million people want to buy your product, why should you be capped at making a certain amount of money? So in that respect, there probably shouldn't be, and anybody who's an investor in that business should be able to earn as much as they can from that business. But in terms of just jobs, the average job, there probably should be a cap on how much people earn, because there's a great massive divide from your lower income earners to the upper income earners. It's a huge gap. Because, I mean, when I was working as a nursery nurse, I was earning about 12,000 a year, something like that, which I don't see how people can really live on. And then you've got bankers earning, I don't even know how many times that, with their bonuses on top. So there's a huge gap in the level of money that people are earning, and I don't think that what a nursery nurse is less valuable, that what they do is less valuable than what the banker's doing. And I quite like Jeremy Corbyn as well.
Okay. Yeah, I agree with you on that point. I don't really know the ins and outs to what he suggested either, but from my knowledge of business, I can't see there be any kind of way to say that you're going to limit like a business owner on how much money they can make from their business, simply because a lot of times a business owner doesn't even pay themselves a wage anyway. There's always kind of ways to kind of get around, you know, whether it's you know, you're offsetting costs and stuff like that.
Are you talking about fiddling taxes, Jen?
No, I'm not talking about fiddling taxes. Why would I even suggest such a thing to you? I'm talking about having adequate tax planning for business. That's what I'm talking about. Yeah. So yeah. So what I'm saying is yeah, there's dividends. There's like you said, there's you know, having shares, investors, all that kind of stuff. So I don't think that that would necessarily be possible. However, in regards to getting a job, even if it's a CEO like or a big manager in a big company, I do believe that it is a quite a good idea to have a limit on the amount that can be earned. Simply because one, I think it would attract the right people to the job, like the people that actually want to make that business as efficient as possible for a start. And like for example, you take an example, someone like British Gas or you know all these gas companies, like they will tell you, oh yeah, this year your gas bill's not going to go up at all, or you know we're taking 0.2% off your bill or something like that, and you're like, oh cool, like I'm saving money. These times inflation has gone up, God knows what, and you're looking at the oil market, and the oil market's gone down like 40% anyway, so they're paying 40% less than they was doing last year, but they're not giving you a 40% discount. They're just saying, oh, we're going to keep it the same. And then you think that you're getting a saving. So, you know, maybe things like that would change if, you know, if there was a maximum limit. And also, I think that a lot of the people that say, no, there should never be a maximum limit are, I'm not trying to put anyone down, but a lot of the time it's people that are never going to get to that point anyway, that they're going to be thinking about earning that kind of money. And I think we kind of live in a society that because we, you know, we always believe that one day we may get to a certain level, that we want that opportunity to be able to get what we can get out of it. But the average person is not going to reach that level anyway. Not to say that you can't make a lot of money or become a millionaire, but the most likely way you're going to do it is to have your own business, or you know, being an entrepreneur in some way, rather than becoming a CEO of a big massive company. So I'm just saying, because there can only be one, do you know what I mean, or two. So so I think that, you know, why are we even why can anyone even say no, that should never happen when won't even affect you in that kind of way anyway. So that's just my personal opinion. But it's an idea, and you know, it's socialism, which is a concept that I'm getting my head around. You know, everyone is always against the capitalist society, but if you don't want a capitalist society, then you're going to have to look at things like this. But before they can even do a maximum, they need to sort out the minimum wage anyway and make sure that everyone is actually having a sufficient living, like, you know, having enough money to live off.
But it's obvious that they haven't worked that out, because the amount of people that are working and still on some form of benefit shows you that they haven't worked that out. Because you shouldn't be in a job and still have to be claiming something. You should be paid a wage that will support you in order to live. Otherwise, what is the point? And I think a lot of people get to that place where they think, what's the point in me going out to work if I'm not earning enough for me to live on? What's the point in me going out to work if I have to pay this amount in childcare fees, and I have to pay this amount in travel costs, and I have to pay this amount for my rent, and I have to pay this amount for my food, and I have to pay this amount for my gas, my electricity, my telephone bill, and any other bills that are outgoing, and then I am left with £2.50 at the end of the month. What is the point in me going to work? I may as well sit on my bottom, not pay my housing, because the government, well, the taxpayer will pay that for me, not bother to pay my travel costs because I don't have to go nowhere, not bother to pay childcare fees because I'm at home and I can pick up my children and drop them off to where they need to go, or they can sit at home with me. See, and I am then getting £150 a week, whatever, I don't know how much it is. 100, I don't know. Say hi, Daniel.
Hi.
You should be in bed. Get in your bed. Bed. There's nothing in there. Yeah, sorry. So yeah, as I said, you start to think, what's the point? Where I could be sitting at home and getting money and
having an easier life. Got two salary pile.
And which is what a lot of people do. And I know they were saying, okay, we've got to take away these benefits in order to stop people sitting at home. But no, that's not what you've got to do. What you've got to do is improve working for the working people, improve the opportunities that when they go to work, they're not going to be suffering, because people are going to work and suffering. It doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, I agree with you 1000%, because I don't understand how, even if you have a profession, you people think, yeah, you're in, made as, you should be in good standing, and you're still struggling, and you're still expected to meet all the needs of anything. And we want to criticize people that sit down and don't do anything. But do you know what? I think they're actually quite smart, because they probably worked out, well, if I'm gonna go work and I'm actually only gonna be £10 off better a week, or in some cases you're even worse off if you go to work, then what's the point? I mean, what is the actual point? So, it's we live in a crazy world, and I just think, it could be sorted out. If we could come to a world where, how Jeremy Corbyn feels, that everyone should have the same amount of money, the same opportunities and whatever, as long as it's enough to be able to, have a good life, then why not do that? I mean, look at this disparity between living in London and outside of London. It's just absolutely ridiculous. I mean, what are you actually paying for? Where is the gold pavements in London? Can you please show me? Because I want to take some of that.
It's true. And then a lot of people end up moving out of London or living outside of London and just commuting into London because of how expensive it is to live in London, and how expensive a lot of people won't ever be able to buy, because the house prices are ridiculous.
Yeah, that's another conversation that we're gonna have for another day, because especially with our generation, a lot of us are not even gonna ever own our own property, and that's really sad. It's sad when we need to kind of have something to give, even to pass down to our children, create a little bit of a legacy. We're told that we are the first generation that is actually going to be worse off than our parents. And if that's the case, what is going to happen to our children? And going into university and coming out with 40, 50, 60 grand worth of debt before you've even gone into the job market. I mean, somebody said to me, and I thought it was so true, like, we're sold these things like go to university, get a degree, get a good education, la-di-da-di-da, and then you come out of having a good degree and whatever, and then you try and get a job and you can't actually get a job. Like, really, that's false advertising, because if you're told that, you do all of this stuff and you will get something at the end of it, and then at the end of it you don't get it, like, we should be getting our money back. Because
I unfortunately wouldn't get my money back because I'm actually in a career that I trained to be in. But yeah, I do understand that, because there are a lot of people who have trained to be in specific fields, and they haven't been able to get into those job markets, and a lot of that is to do with lack of experience. And how do you get experience if you go straight into university?
Yeah, but not only have they not got the experience. I mean, if you're doing a degree like flipping herbology or something, I'm not being funny. I'm sure then it might be necessarily in some kind of world, but you're going to do herbology, or I'm just using that as an example, like maybe even human resources. Like, yeah, okay, every company needs a human resources department, but I'll tell you what, every company has also scaled down their human resources department immensely, brought in a load of technology, so there's not needed a massive kind of group of people doing human resources. So why are we having human resources degrees? Like, do you know what I mean?
I think that probably goes into another conversation as well in regards to basically what advice are our children getting for their future. You know, when I was advised on what to do, I was told that I should probably be a nursery nurse, even though I told my careers advisor that I wanted to be a lawyer specialising in juvenile law. So I think that how are children's careers advisors, how are they advising them for the benefit of their future? Are we looking at the reality of getting into specific jobs that they want to get into, and advising them as such?
Well, I'm not being funny, but if your job ends up being a career advisor for children, then maybe you haven't really lived out your potential either. Do you know what I mean? I'm joking. I'm sure it's a very important job. I'm just being like, but yeah.
I think that we all have to be careers advisors. As parents, we have to research and look into what's a feasible career.
I'm a career advisor for my children. My oldest is going to be a lawyer, and my youngest is going to be a doctor.
Fantastic. And I mean, I'm sure that you've looked into what they need to do in order to get that, and that's what, as parents, we need to make sure that we're looking into the careers that we're advising our children into. Specifically those careers, why did you choose those, or did your children choose them?
Well, I chose them because one, I know that it's a career that, you know, would, well, with a lawyer, actually lawyers is not even a guaranteed career either. But the particular child that I chose to be a lawyer, as you probably could guess, you know, I think he has a lot of attributes that would make him a very, very good lawyer, in terms of, you know, always being right, you know, always having, you know, something to say, and, you know, just always trying to get his point across. I just say every time I get into it with him, I say, you'll make an excellent. Then the other one, he's very loving and caring anyway, so he's got that those attributes. But he's also quite interested in science and stuff like that. So it might not even necessarily be like a doctor of medicine, but I can see that if he is, you know, encouraged in the right way, you know, it's something that that he can do. I also do know that those careers are also very expensive for parents to get their children into. So that's something that I need to work on as well, because that's another thing that we think about. We want to push our children to do certain things, but we don't actually, there's actually like something that we have to do as well. So as you're clearly aware, having a child that's decided to go into a certain career, you know, there's a lot of sacrifices that you have to make for your children, and there's a lot of money that you have to spend as well. So, you know, if you want your children to be in those top kinds of careers and stuff, it's a lot of hard work on both ways, and it's learning from now. You know, get out of the TV and the internet, and, you know, getting down on the work. I'm not saying that, you know, if it doesn't happen, it doesn't happen, but at least have a goal to reach to. You know what I mean? What's the point of aiming this high and all you have to do is step to it? You want to aim this high and, you know, be able to reach for it. Do you know what I mean? So that's what I feel anyway.
Yeah, I agree with you, and I definitely can see why you specifically decided on those careers. or your two children.
Yeah. So is there anything else that you want to talk about?
I think perhaps we will leave it till the next talk show, because I'm extremely tired. I have a long day ahead of me tomorrow.
Yeah, I hear you. Yeah, that's the day of struggling people. So need a beauty sleep and that. But yeah, so I'll thank everyone for watching with us today, and whoever's going to be watching in the future. Thank you for staying on this stream and hearing what we have to say. Please subscribe to the YouTube channel. This YouTube channel is Genovision Media. You just click on the subscribe button, and then next to it there is a little bell button. If you click on that button, it also alerts you to when we're doing our live streams. So then you can join in with us and interact with us. Also, there's a Facebook page, Genovision Media, and we also have our talk group called Let's Talk Online, Interviews, Discussions and Debates. That there you can interact with us and post interesting stories that are happening, and let's just get conversations going. Like I said, we've got a lot of things coming up in the next couple of weeks, so just look out for what we're going to be doing. Like to thank Gail Mama G for joining us today. She's taken a good hour and a bit out of her day, which her days are extremely busy. So I just want to thank you so much for joining me on this stream. And you will be seeing her and hearing her lovely words of advice and her thoughts very soon. Okay, so thank you very much, and we'll talk soon. Peace.